There's a lot of scary Umas in this. Any of these Umas could win. Good luck on CM Finals. Thank you so much. I just won my finals. Oh, congrats, Bunny Bear. Congrats. Sending my luck to you. Thank you. Thank you. Got my first 8 finals win in over a year. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you. Thank you, Pandy Bang, for the super chat. Thank you. Ray Fuji Kiseki for concert mayor. Go fighting. Alright, I believe. Number 1, number 2 faves. Alright, come on. Come on, girlies. Please. Please. Oh my god, I double late start? Okay. 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 The other Fuji takes lucky pace. It's fine. It's fine. We're still in the front of the pace pack. We're still towards the front of the pack. Holding 2nd and 4th. I've late started before. Taiki 5th. Fuji 2nd. Okay. Alright. We're not holding great positions right now. Taiki falls to 6th. Oh no. Oh no. Petrifying Gaze, head out, shooting victory, winning Blossom Fuji hits everything! Fuji hits 2nd! Fuji lock in! Fuji lock in, please! Fuji duel it down! Fuji duel it down, please, 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 Fuji! 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 She did it! Oh my god, she did it! Oh my god, she did it! Oh, look at her, she did it! All right, so thank you guys so much for watching. I have a lot to say about the CM. The CM was just such a whirlwind experience for me, and I think for a lot of the player base. This was just a really weird CM because we had the revamped Unity Cap, which has never been a relevant scenario for CMs on other servers, but because of like this perfect storm of events, now suddenly we were making aces in this older scenario, which was really interesting. It was really cool to like kind of see the player base adapt. I did a lot of scrims for the CM, and I noticed a lot of, you know, early on, I noticed a lot of Unity aces that just did not have very many skills would lose to Trackblazer aces, because Trackblazer aces can get those skills. And it's like I was watching the player base in rooms adapt in real time to realizing that they needed to run different cards and like better parents and more skill-based legacies than they did in Trackblazer. And so watching that change happen kind of in real time was really interesting to me. Just watching how the meta changed from mostly Trackblazer Umas winning to mostly Unity Umas winning because of like changes that people were making to their decks, to their legacies. It was really cool. So the Leo Cup is one that I just had an absolute blast with. And I also had a blast with CM9, so maybe I'm just a sprint CM girly at heart. But I found that Leo Cup was really, really great. And my experience with it was just awesome. Like, it was such a nice breath of fresh air after a lot of the Trackblazer CMs, after a lot of like medium CMs back to back, after a lot of CMs where I felt like I didn't really have a lot of agency in my Uma choice or my, you know, what I was running. It was really fun to be able to just run Umas that I wanted to be able to run Umas that I thought were going to be fun. And honestly, it was really, really nice to be able to like have a CM where Fuji is not kind of like a brick in my in my team. So I'm going to talk about my thoughts here because this actually is tied for my highest win rate in a CM. This is tied with CM11 for my highest win rate, and CM11 was a very long CM, and this is the short CM. So it's kind of cool to see that I'm really rocking in both extremes here. But I said very early on that I don't think that CM16 was a random RNG, just completely dice roll gamble CM. I remember that CM9 felt that way because in CM9 we had very little acceleration options that were actually reliable. And most of those were, I mean, really the only two that I can recall off the top of my head were Victoria Por Plancha and Give Mummy a Hug, which were both only 0.1. So you're relying a lot on like skills like Rushing Gale, Straightaway Acceleration, Turbo Sprint, which back then only worked on a straight, and just like hoping that it kind of hits early enough. Or you do what I did and rely a lot on velocity skills and just kind of like lightly dust your excels throughout and trust that your velocity skills will guide you through. This CM wasn't like that though. This CM, we had accelerations that worked from a specific point. We had accelerations that were more reliable now thanks to the patch due to like the head-on and on your left buffs. So we had options, and we had options not only for acceleration, but we had better options for velocity because this was a midway through the final corner CM. So we had a lot of options for velocity. We had a lot of options to take more velocity skills and hopes that it would give us carryover. We even had really nice options for late race because late race was the only straight on the map. So taking skills like sprint straightaways or any skill that activates on a straightaway guarantees that that is a late race velocity option, which meant that you actually, well, I feel like I actually had a lot more control over when my skills were proccing than I do in a lot of other CMs. Like I would take a straight skill knowing that that is a late race skill. You know, obviously I take Uma Stand knowing that that's going to be an early race skill most of the time. You know, I take corner skills knowing that it's going to be a mid to hopefully late with carryover race skill. And in doing so, I was really able to watch and monitor the effects that these skills were having, and I was able to really see like the difference between early race, mid race, and late race as like specific chunks in an Uma Musume build. Right? And one of the things that I have been noticing a lot when I have been seeing people, you know, talking about this being a gamble CM, or when I have been seeing people like being frustrated that their, you know, high rating Umas aren't performing very well, a lot of it is because one of those three chunks is like missing from the build. And I'm not saying this to be like, oh, I've figured it out, I've cracked the code, but I'm saying this in like this is something that I've observed that feels relevant to discuss, because I think that skimping on any of those three means that you're not going to perform as well versus Umas that either hit in those or just were able to have more cohesive builds. And I'm not knocking on any build. I think that, you know, a lot of people were trying to figure out what works the CM. I scrimmed a lot. I spent a lot of time on the CM because I was really hyper fixated on it. One, because it was just new and exciting and it was a meta that nobody has ever seen before. And two, because like Fuji is viable. Yeah, that was kind of my observation in terms of picking up skills for different parts of the race. I do think that another pitfall that I saw people kind of fall into was over-indexing on accelerations. I've seen a lot of things like Taiki or Flower with like Plan X and Turbo Sprint and maybe neck and neck when they both already have like that innate 0.4 acceleration. And so I think that when you're thinking about acceleration versus velocity, you really want to think about opportunity costs in over-indexing on acceleration, specifically acceleration that is more on the gambly side. If that's your only option, if that's all you have as a position, which we're going to probably see with pace chasers in CM17, completely valid. Like, I totally get it. And I get why you would even stack it up when you have more reliable accel, because, you know, acceleration wins the game. But at the same time, like, you have to really be careful about balancing out your acceleration versus your velocity. And I think that being able to put more of your SP budget into velocity is very strong. And I think in the CM, it was a lot stronger than people really gave it credit for. I won a lot of my races on Fuji just from pure velocity carryover. I won quite a few races as Lucky Pace from pure velocity carryover where I didn't even have access to my unique. So I think that being able to make that cut and figure out like what ratio you need is a very strong skill, and it will reward you. But those are just some lessons that I took away from this. Those are just some skills that I was trying to really focus on and refine and hone in this CM. Whether or not, you know, that advice is applicable to everyone, or whether or not I'm just, you know, completely, you know, full of it and I don't know what I'm talking about, that's, you know, I do my best, right? Like, I try to say what I observe, I try to talk about things, but overall, you know, I do understand that there are lots of RNG elements to this game. There are lots of reasons that people could win or lose a race. And I think that, you know, sometimes you just get unlucky, and that is something that people should talk about. Sometimes RNG is just not in your favor. Sometimes you miss the wit check on angling and scheming. Sometimes you know, don't hit when you really should have, and that costs you the race. And that is really heartbreaking, and I completely understand that. And I'm not saying that, like, you know, this is why you lose or this is why you win, just things that I noticed that improved my own consistency, and things that I noticed when maybe like reviewing other Umas and looking at, you know, other builds and trying to see, you know, where they were succeeding and where they were maybe not succeeding. With that being said, let's go ahead and look at my Umas. So first, let's look at Taiki Shuttle. Taiki was an Uma that I wasn't sure if I was going to run the CM. I thought I was probably going to run her, and then I actually went through a really big shift during my CM prep here. First, I was going to run Taiki, Flower, and Fuji, and that was the team that I was running in practice rooms very early on. They performed very well, but I did notice that my Flower was underperforming a little bit, so I dropped the Flower. And then I got a really, really nice Fuji, and I was running my Fuji and noticing that she was winning a lot more than the Taiki that I was running at the time. So I dropped Taiki, and I started trying to experiment with running with a solo ace Fuji. Folks who are watching my streams remember this, but I was running Fuji with my sweet Tosho debuffer, and I was running Fuji with a front Curran debuffer with a front B so that she would fall behind. And I was seeing a lot of really early success on solo ace Fuji. I had about a 45% win rate in rooms with her. But after a certain point, like I was mentioning with the user base kind of, sorry, I forgot to put my PNG tuber up. But anyway, I was just so excited to talk about the CM. Kind of what I was talking about with like how I watched like the growth arc of the server in rooms, it hit a certain point in rooms where my solo ace Fuji just stopped winning. So, and that was about 3 days before the CM started. My Fuji just stopped winning, and I was hitting like maybe 10% win rate in rooms, which was really frustrating for me because I was winning so much. And then I just stopped winning. So I did a stream the day before the CM started where it was labeled CM prep. I did a couple rooms. I was getting a little bit frustrated because I just could not win a single room with my poor Fuji. So I decided I'm just gonna make another ace. Like, I know that my former ace, Nishino Flower, was not very consistent. I know that my former ace, Taiki, was not very consistent. I know that Fuji is the best of any other ace I have in my account. So I'm just gonna send it. We're gonna make another ace. It's fine. I doored my first Taiki run that night, and I did my second run on stream, which was this run. Yeah, I am incredibly pleased with how this Taiki turned out. I think that she is definitely missing a couple things, but it kind of works out in my favor in some ways. So I've noticed that there have been a lot of people talking about having too much mid-race. Having so much mid-race, or having your Uma be like quote-unquote so good that they go into first or second place before the final corner. And what I say to that, what I've mentioned this on stream, is that like you kind of have this like dead zone of mid-race, right? Where like, and this is different in every race because the RNG for, you know, proccing these velocity skills, where they proc, if you proc them, if you meet the wit checks, is different every time. So it's a really difficult, you know, like dead zone to really talk about. But basically you have, when you have enough mid-race, but not too much mid-race, you can find yourself in third and fourth places with your excel positions pretty easily. If you have what people have talked in my chats and my streams about having like quote unquote too much mid-race, you can rocket yourself into second place or even first place and not be able to do anything from there, and then you lose to whoever was in third and fourth. And that has happened to me, even, you know, it happened to me with these Umas. It is very frustrating when it happens, I completely understand. But I think that there's actually a point after that where, you know, I don't consider that to be too much mid-race. I consider that to be like maybe like a mid-race dead zone. But there's a portion after that where if you have even more mid-race, then you can just win off of being lucky pace. Because you mid-race so hard, maybe you take like 3 skills as carryover into the excel phase, and you are just moving so quickly or so early that even Umas that hit their excels cannot beat you. And I think that this is really helped by having the very high speed stat, by having the sprint S, that obviously by having the turf S, by having the, you know, overcapped speed, by having like some speed greens. Like, I think that that is all definitely a factor. But so I do think that there is a point where you can have just enough mid-race to where it shoots you in the foot. But I think that there is still an option to go beyond that, so I don't want people's takeaway from this to be I'm scared of building mid-race, or I'm scared of building quote-unquote like too much mid-race, because I don't actually think that that's a thing. I just think that there's kind of a sliding dead zone there where you might wind up in an awkward position, depending on how the RNG checks of the race go, depending on, you know, things like that. So talking about my Taiki here, I was actually pretty frustrated in my career because I didn't get pace corners and I didn't get sprint corners. And those are 2 skills that I kind of made my make or break for this CM. If I don't get those, like, I'm pretty annoyed and I might not consider using it as a ace. But I will say that, you know, getting Speed Star, getting In High Spirits, and, you know, getting the Tail Held High, Playtime's Over, skills like that were very, very helpful. I think the overspeed here was really helpful, and then I think my guts was extremely helpful in breaking those like last minute duels, last minute ties, and then of course my triumphant pulse has saved me from so many races. Do not neglect late race, right? Like my late race skills, my sprint straights, my triumphant pulse, like those saved me in at least like 15 of my races. Yeah, so this was the Taiki that I made. I did inherit head on because I have a pretty strong Pace Chaser legacy, so I did not do her secret event. I preferred to do more of my racing earlier in the career, and even then I didn't do very many additional races. I probably could have done a couple more. I was really trying to farm power towards the end of my career because my power stat was a little bit low. But overall, I think it was a pretty good Taiki run. I'll show the second inspiration here because I hit my first inspiration where I hit Head On, Lone Wolf, a couple other skills, and I was having like a really nice roll throughout my classic year. And then senior year, I was like, if I don't hit Sprint S, like I'm dead. So here's the clip for that. I think it's pretty funny. No, really, no, real yippee-ki-yay. I will yippee-ki-yay if I get turf and sprint here. Ah! 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 Yippee-ki-yay! So this Taiki used this deck, which I think is actually a pretty funny deck. It's not the deck that I thought I was going to use on Taiki, but it wound up working really well for me because I was so sick of my chains not finishing, guys. I was so sick of it. I had to door multiple Umas because I didn't get the chains finishing. I even got so tilted that I was dooring during the Ura finale, even though like it was just a couple more races until the career was over. I was like, I'm done. I didn't get Speedstar. So I wound up using my 0 LB Current Wit and my Fuku, just so that I could cancel both of their first chains. The really nice thing about Current Wit is that she does give free play times over, which is a mid-race skill, and so if you're able to like pump your stats and like hit a decently high roll, then running the 0 LB card is not too bad, especially because she does rainbow on Wit, even if her rainbows are pretty weak. And then I ran Fuku so that I could cancel her first chain, and then I just prayed. Just prayed that I would hit 11 chains, and thank God I did. I hit Fine Mo's last chain in December of senior year, where she gave me Speedstar, so very nice Uma. She performed incredibly well. I was really, really happy with her. I did not expect her to win quite that much, but I'm really glad that she did. And yeah, this is my Taiki. And now I really want to talk about Sweet Bee. Sweet Tosho is my diva for the CM, and I really regret that I did not go harder on making Sweet Tosho after I got one that I thought was like, quote unquote, like, okay, right? Because what happened was I was doing so much experimentation and so many rooms for the CM that I wound up pivoting off of Sweet Tosho to build like a late special week. I built a Hishi Amazon. I built a Majuro Ryan. Like I built so many Umas because I was enjoying CM prep so much that I did not actually have time to go back and refine my Sweet Tosho, which makes me really sad because I had a theory very early on that I could make a Kenai debuffer that could also win, which feels kind of nuts because when you make a Kenai debuffer, when you make a 564 debuffer, you can't use gold skills. So this was my experimentation, and in trying to make a debuffer that could actually win, I needed a couple things, right? I needed an end closer because I needed somebody to hit everybody with Kenai. I needed an Uma that would stay in the back so that I could hit as many Umas with Kenai as possible. And I needed an Uma with additional debuffs. And I needed an Uma that could hit Sprint A. So that was a lot. That was a lot of moving pieces I had to put together. I wound up janking a lot of my parents here so that I could get the Let's Pump Some Iron and I could get Budding Blossom. I had to inherit both of those from grandparents in order to get the proper accelerations. I had to run, Gold City. I experimented a lot with the deck. I kind of regret running Kirin because I don't think that I necessarily needed Hesitant Ends. But it was really nice to run her for the SP, so, there is that. And yeah, so I wound up I did a lot of Sweet Tosho careers to inherit both of the grandparent skills and get all of the accelerations plus the 564. And additionally, I stocked up on white skills, because the thing about Sweet Tosho is that she does have Petrifying Gaze, which is a Dominator level debuff, but it only works for Umas within your field of vision when you proc the skill at a random point late race. What this means is that Sweet Tosho cannot be 10 million miles behind the rest of the pack. She has to be right up next to everybody so that she can proc Petrifying Gaze. The way to get her to do this is to make her an Uma that can actually win. And so that was kind of the impetus for my deranged Sweet Tosho building. I did get an okay one. I missed out on end closer corners because I lost the Oka show in her career, but I am just really sad that I didn't go harder for a better Sweet Tosho, because I really think that if I went harder for a better Sweet Tosho, she could have won more races. I really genuinely believe that would have happened. I do think that this is kind of a stupid cook, and this was one of those things that I spent an outsourced amount of time on for a very, very small reward. And even if I'd spent more time on Sweet Tosho, I don't think she would have gotten more than like maybe 3 wins this CM. But it was really fun to see everyone root for her. It was really fun to like press my stupid cooks that I knew weren't gonna turn out very well, but I really wanted to do it anyway, just because it felt so unique and so fun and so interesting to create like a completely new kind of Uma, like an Uma that wins without any gold skills, just through like double circle corners and a bunch of acceleration inherits and stuff like that. So I thought it was really fun, and it was a great personal challenge for myself. I just wish that I had done more iterations on her. But she did win 1 race in round 2. This isn't good for me. This is bad. This is very bad. This is very, very bad. This is very, very bad. Sweep, it's all up to you! Sweep, it's all up to you! She hit shooting! She hit betting! She hit petrifying! Sweep! 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 Yes! So my decision to run a debuffer over a third pace was a little bit interesting because I did have a flower that I was running, and then I pivoted to a debuffer, partially just because I really fell in love with Sweet Tosho when I was doing some experimental runs with her, and partially because I thought that double pace plus debuffer was a great way to remove the third pace chaser that wasn't performing as well, and try to stack the deck with my 2 pace chasers that work. Because one thing that I noticed was that when I'm running triple pace chaser, I am usually noticing that one of my pace chasers are underperforming. And usually, even if that pace chaser wins, I have another Uma in second place. So I feel like that Uma's win rate is a little bit of a misnomer, and removing her doesn't actually affect my team win rate. And instead, introducing a debuffer Uma, not only, one, it reduces my chances of getting blocked very slightly, and additionally, it helps to augment my other 2 pace chasers, and it helps to make them stronger. Particularly the Sweet Tosho, who does have both Petrifying Gaze in her kit, as well as the ability to take Keen Eye with the 564. Now, this isn't a always works forever kind of strategy. Petrifying Gaze is a late race skill, which means that 564 can proc early and hit Petrifying Gaze instead of Keen Eye. That is my Sweet Tosho's fail case. And that means that she'll maybe hit like 2 runners with Petrifying Gaze, and she won't use Keen Eye at all, so she's pretty much just Petrifying Gaze on 2 runners and then hesitant pace chasers, right? Like, it's not good. But her success case is incredibly strong. Her success case is hitting Petrifying Gaze and then hitting Keen Eye, which is the power of a double dominator in one Uma. So that was my strategy going into this, using the Sweet Tosho, and then just trying to see if I could get a crazy build where she could actually win. And my third Uma, Miss Victoria herself, my Fuji Kiseki. I built this Fuji off stream. I was really happy with her. She got sprint pace corners. She did not get in high spirits, she got light as a feather instead. But I think that her mid-race was incredibly strong. Particularly when you consider her unique, which is a final corner past someone towards the front unique. This meant that she could hit Ravissant with, which is a 0.45 velocity skill, with carryover if she got very lucky. It also meant that she could hit Ravissant later and hit basically like a second Triumphant Pulse. I found Fuji to be very strong for me this CM. I know that she is not the extreme top tier of performers this CM, but I was able to make her work. Not that I think that it's a huge pull to make her work, because she does have a very strong kit for the CM. I was just so happy that I made it work with this build. So this is the first build that I did after I switched up my deck a little bit, where I used Rice Wit, and I was still using my Nakayama Festa because I was really trying to greed for Nothing Ventured. But I used my Rice Wit here for pace corners. I somehow miraculously did manage to finish my Curvature and my Anti-Spirits chain. I didn't finish my Nothing Ventured chain, but that's fine because I did wind up getting a decent stats. I wound up getting Turf S, Sprint S. I wound up getting, you know, most of the normal stuff. But yeah, she was amazing. I love her, and she did such a good job, and I was a little bit sad that she was starting to get overshadowed by my Taiki during the actual CM races. Even though I do love Taiki, all I wanted was for her to win the finals. I contemplated taking out my Taiki and putting in a second debuffer just so that I could have a better shot of Fuji winning finals. But I didn't have to do that because she won, and guys, winning the very first Miss Victoria CM with my Oshi still makes me really emotional. Yeah, I don't know. This is maybe one of the best feelings I've ever had playing this game, is being able to do that. Being able to, like, get her there. I have never listened very closely to Miss Victoria. I've heard it once in the past. But I tried to make it a point to not watch it very often, or, you know, to only watch it that one time. So that, you know, the first time I win it, it could be really special. It really was. When I was watching it with my stream, I was rocking. I was doing really great. I was so happy to see her there. I was so happy to, like, watch her. And there's a part in Miss Victoria where, and again, like, I hadn't listened to it very much, but there's a part where Fuji sings, this is the English translation that they offer in the game because I don't speak Japanese, but in the game, the English translation is, I have pride and dreams to see you smiling in awe. And even though, like, I know that any Uma can sing it, that's such, I mean, it, 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 That's just her. That's her. And she says, everything I could have dreamed belongs to me. Fuji's story means a lot to me. It was the first story that really, really touched me. For those who don't have Fuji or haven't read her story, there's a split path in her career where after the Satsuki Show, she realizes that she can not run in longer races. And her aptitudes reflect this because she has a long aptitude of E. Historically, Fuji Kiseki was known as one of the Phantom Triple Crown horses because he was so dominant early on and was taken out by an injury very early into his career. But because he was so dominant, people thought of Fuji Kiseki as a Phantom Triple Crowner, like a horse that could have been, right? And Fuji's career reflects that. And there's a moment where you are able to tell her that you will support her as she attempts to do the Triple Crown. And so if you get her long aptitude to A, and you win a Triple Crown with her, you get her one of her secret events where she talks to you and says, you know, I didn't think that I could do it because I always doubted myself, but you were right there with me, and you helped me make my dreams come true. Anyway, it just makes me a little bit emotional to think about fulfilling the legacy of the horse that unfortunately was not able to race after the Satsuki Show. And it's one of the reasons why I love Fuji Kiseki as a character so much. Of course, you know, she just won a sprint race. She didn't win a long race, but it still means a lot to me for her to, at least to bring her some kind of victory, and to bring her a victory that I think that she would have really loved to see. So, thank you guys. And thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. This was super fun. Like I said, of course, given the extremely long recording here, you could probably imagine that I did get really, really into the CM. So thank you again. Please let me know how your finals went. I hope that, you know, even if it didn't quite come together for you, I hope that you still had fun, and I hope that this CM was at least a nice change of pace. On to bigger and greater things with Grand Concert, which releases tomorrow. I am really excited to start doing some content for it, and I'm really excited to, you know, venture into the craziness of the first CM after a new scenario drops. So thank you guys so much, and I hope that you'll stick with it. I will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.
嬉しいなさあやってやろう行こうショーの始め